Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're about to celebrate completing Brahma's prayers, almost. We've been reading from Canto 10, Chapter 14, which comes after the Brahma Vimohan Lila. Brahma stealing the calves, coward boys, putting them in a cave, coming back. What's Krishna going to do? There's the calves and the cowherd boys. What? Goes back to the cave. They're in the cave. Comes back. There they are having lunch. And then Vimohan, Krishna shows him, he gives him the answer to the question he had. What's the limit of Krishna's mystic power? The answer is unlimited. He showed his mystic powers in so many ways without the detail. And he was struck with wonder, and he fainted. And then he regained consciousness and he offered prayers. And we're nearly completing his prayers. In fact, where we are now is he's going to ask Krishna permission to return to his own abode, because Krishna's been silent, hearing everything. So he doesn't want to further displease him. So let's see, where are we? Yeah, okay. Text number, so it's 10:14:39. 10:14:39. My dear Krishna, I now humbly request permission to leave. Actually, you are the knower and seer of all things. Indeed, you are the Lord of all universes, and yet I offer this one universe unto you. In the purport, the BBT purport, is written not by Prabhupada but by his followers, because Prabhupada left his body at the completion of chapter 13. So chapter 14 is his followers. Purport: in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we know as Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada has quoted Lord Brahma as follows, quote, My dear Lord, although you are the Supreme Lord of all creation, I sometimes falsely think that I'm the master of this universe. I may be the master of this universe, but there are innumerable universes, and there are also innumerable Brahmas who preside over these universes. But actually, you are the master of them all. As the super soul in everyone's heart, you know everything. Please, therefore, accept me as your surrendered servant. I hope that you will excuse me for disturbing you in your pastimes with your friends and calves. Now, if you will kindly allow me, I will immediately leave so you can enjoy your friends and calves without my presence. Paragraph. The words Sarvam Tvam Vitsi Sarvadrik are very significant here. Lord Krishna knows everything, Sarvadrik, and sees everything, and therefore Lord Brahma did not need to remain in Vrindavan to maintain his personal loving contact with the Lord. In fact, as the creator of the universe, Lord Brahma was somewhat out of place in the simple, blissful atmosphere of Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna was exhibiting his supreme opulences in herding cows, enjoying picnics, playing games, and so on. The sweetness of aspect of Krishna is one of his topmost excellences. Upon seeing the intense love the residents of Vrindavan had for Lord Krishna, Brahma felt unqualified to remain there. He was not eager to give up the Lord's association, but he felt it better to return to his personal devotional service in Brahmaloka. Somewhat embarrassed and unhappy over his foolish attempt at bewildering the Lord, Brahma preferred to resume his transcendental loving service rather than try to enjoy the Lord's presence. There's a number of situations in the Bhagavatam where the demigods come into Krishna's presence. One of them is described by the gopis to Mother Yasoda. It comes in chapter 35 of the 10th canto, where Krishna's late and Mother Yasoda's anxious because little Krishna's late, mothers. So the gopis console her and say, it's okay. He just went to take bath in the river Jamuna before returning, and after taking bath, the boys were playing on the banks of the Jamuna. And as they were walking back, the demigods who were observing Krishna's activities all day long from the sky, they descended on the path that Krishna was following, and they were offering their respects to Krishna. So Krishna is getting the blessings of the demigods. Your son's getting the blessings of the demigods, so be happy. And he'll be back soon. Or we find that from time to time, when demons are killed by Krishna in Vrindavan, the demigods shower flowers and play kettle drums. So they're observing. We also find from this, in the morning discussion, it's Uddhava Gita. So Uddhava Gita comes in the 11th canto. And just before Krishna, same chapter, chapter 6 of canto 11, just before Krishna begins speaking in chapter 7, the demigods visit Krishna in Dwarka, headed by Brahma and Shiva. They offer prayers, beautiful prayers, and then they express, you fulfilled your commitment. You were present on earth for 125 autumns. They're very specific. And the purpose for which we asked you to descend, to destroy the demons, has now been fulfilled. So if you so desire, you can return. And your the outer dynasty, best if they also return, because Kali Yuga is coming and everything becomes deteriorated in Kali Yuga, and they're very powerful, so take them with you. We'll have further problems. So they visit from time to time. And after they visit, they depart. So here is Brahma's departure. And then there's this natural tension between wishing to stay and wishing to not stay because of feeling unqualified. There's another nice example in the latter part of the 10th canto. Krishna requests Brahma to come see him in Dwarka. It's a really nice description, very detailed description. Brahma comes. When Brahma comes, he's received by a doorman. And the doorman says, "Who are you?" He said, this is Brahma. So let me see if Krishna is ready to receive you. He may be busy with some other things. He came back and said, "Krishna wants to know which Brahma." And he says, "Well, how do you mean, which Brahma?" Four-headed Brahma, the father of the four Kumaras. Okay, I'll. So Krishna invites him to come. When he comes in Dwarka, he has this experience where he can see many other Brahmas with not just 4 heads, but 10 heads and 100 heads and 1,000 heads and so forth, coming before Krishna, placing their helmets at Krishna's lotus feet. The big sound, their metal helmets hitting the floor before Krishna's feet. So they come from time to time. According to a very interesting explanation by one of Prabhupada's disciples, Sadaputta, that wrote many books on science and the Vedas, he explained that the visits by the demigods when there's yagyas and other circumstances was quite common in previous ages, but he used the word, there's a quarantine during Kali Yuga. They don't come. It's too toxic. But it's not uncommon for them, the demigods. They have the capacity. There's a very interesting teaching of Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya? Everyone knows Madhvacharya, right? Madhvacharya? No? There are one of the principal teachers or acharyas in coming from Lord Brahma is Madhva. Brahma, where the line, everyone knows Sri Vaishnavas, Ramanujacharya. So as Ramanujacharya is to Sri Sampradaya, Madhvacharya is to the Brahma Sampradaya. And his headquarters was in Udupi, celebrated as Udupi Krishna, Madhvacharya. And he had a full, comprehensive explanation of Vedanta Sutra. He wrote, one of his principal works is Nava Prameyas. Pramana means evidence, or the way of knowing something, means of knowing something. Pramana. And what is to be known as Prameya. Pramana, Prameya. Nava Prameyas is one of, it's a summarization of his essential teachings. You could say a capsule of his Vedanta Sutra commentary. And one of those teachings explains that liberation, unlike any of the other 3 principal Vaishnava Sampradayas, he doesn't teach that there is a spiritual world with innumerable Vaikuntha planets and Lord Narayan is presiding over those innumerable Vaikuntha planets, with to speak of Krishna Loka, although his principal deity is Udupi Krishna. And the other Leela avatars surrounding Udupi Krishna so he's Vaishnav, but he has a very interesting teaching that says, doesn't speak, have to say it maybe a few times because you're not customary. There isn't a spiritual world with spiritual planets. Rather, liberation means that one may stay wherever you are, and you just become liberated. That means free from the contamination of material contact by pure bhakti. And the demigods, for example, or great sages or mystics or whatever, they may go and visit the Supreme Lord in his spiritual planet within this universe, Svetadweep, and offer some worship and service, and then go back to their respective places, kind of like going to a temple. And you go back home and do your seva. But it's not uncommon for demigods to go visit the Supreme Lord, is the point. And Brahma has done that, and he's now ready to return. Here comes our other Acharya's commentary. Vishwanath writes, Krishna is considering, oh Brahma, so what if you cannot understand fully my powers? Can I understand your powers? In order to express the fact that Brahma can no longer answer, Brahma, with shame, makes the following request, quote, please give me the order which expresses your true thoughts, anuja nihi. Give the order to the fallen person, unqualified to remain before you another minute. As I am most fallen, I will go to the suitable fallen place, Brahmaloka. O Krishna. He explains here the meaning of this word Krishna in this case is to please attract my mind to Vrindavan. O Krishna. I have prayed that you make me a blade of grass in Gokula. That was 4 verses ago, text 34 of his prayers. But there has been no response from you, even by so much as a glance. So what more can I do standing here? It's better that I go quickly away, because I am an offender for having interrupted your meal on the bank of the Jamuna. I am deprived of a drop of nectar of one word from your lips. With your friends and calves, finish your pastimes with lively verbal exchanges and eating on the bank of the Yamuna. What indeed can I ask for in my tremulous condition? With this intention, Brahma says, quote, you know the power of my mind, words, and body. I am not the master of the universe. You are the master, not only of one universe, but of all universes. This meager universe, which is your wealth, not mine, I offer to you. Give this universe to whomever you like, to whoever is qualified in your eyes. He's abundantly humbled and humble in his expression. He's expressed knowledge, very difficult to understand, highly elevated knowledge, but insignificant before Krishna. Jiva Goswami, another of our great acharyas, writes, Brahma revealed bhakti, endowed with humility, which was shown to be a cause of attaining the Lord in making his request to depart. Actually, bhakti has been a thread or theme throughout. Bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. O Krishna, whose form and qualities attract all the senses, please give me permission. He prays to leave, not because he wants to, but because he feels he is unqualified to be with the Lord, since the Lord remained silent while he was praying. All that I spoke to you and all that should be spoken about you is mere repetition of words. You know everything. Your powers are my powers, your mind and my mind, your profound pastimes and my disqualification, I do not know. Without your permission, it is not possible even for grass to have auspiciousness in the form of grass. I cannot give up my position as a creator of the universe. Since you offered the universe to me, I must carry out this order as a servant. If you say, how can you ask for permission without my again seeing the boys and calves which you stole? I say that you know everything and you see everything. You do not have to be informed about where they are. Later it's going to explain in this chapter, Krishna knows by his mystic power Brahma put them there. By Krishna's mystic power he brings them back. Because what Brahma was seeing was the replicas, Krishna's expansions looking exactly like the cowherd boys. But meanwhile, for 1 year, the cowherd boys are in a cave. And it's by Krishna's mystic power that they don't get hungry. But they grow 1 year's worth. Because back at home, mom and dad saw their little child grow for 1 year. So if they come back stunted, that's going to be weird. So they're not hungry, they're growing, and Krishna brings them and he completes having lunch. That's how the next chapter begins. Next chapter begins as they're having lunch. And they say, Krishna, you're so attached to us, you can't be away for us for a moment. Sit down, finish lunch. Like nothing happened. Because they, under the influence of Yogamaya potency, they remembered what they could. Krishna's a source of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15. Matak smitir jnanam apohanam cha. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto. Matak smitir jnanam apohanam cha. He is situated in the heart, and from him, of everyone, and from him comes smritir, remembrance or forgetfulness, or knowledge. Okay, so now we're going to Sanatana Goswami's commentary. With the disappearance of all pride because of special mercy of the Lord arising from his prayer, being most humble, Brahma requests to leave for his abode with knowledge of the Lord. O Lord, revealing unlimited qualities as Bhagavan, you alone know your greatness. Described in what I said, his greatness is described in verse number 2, and so there's several places. Mahima, his greatness is described. You alone know your greatness, as already described, because you are omniscient, Sarvadrik. Or, being omniscient, you do not know everything. Which doesn't make sense. Omniscience means to know everything. There must be a I left it there because that's the way it's translated. It must be omniscient, you know everything. Since you are unlimited, I cannot praise you. Thus I will now depart. In order to perfect bhakti, by giving up my pride, I offer everything to you, namely this universe. Krishna. Oh, Brahma. You asked for a birth just now in this place. Why are you going elsewhere? Brahma. I cannot stay here in this Devata body with 4 heads. You are eager to enjoy with your devotees, under the control of their prema. Oh, Krishna, dear to the people of Braja, you know that I cannot stay here, but I offer everything to you in order to achieve my request. You are the master of the universe. Although I desire to offer, I cannot do so. I offer to you what you have offered to me. Krishna. Oh, Brahma, you are the Lord of the universe, because you create it. Why do you show such humility? Brahma. No, you are the Lord of the universe, and I am only your servant. Krishna. It is seen that this world is composed by your creative... It is seen that this world composed by your creative work is ruled by you. Brahma. You offered me the universe. I'm not the Lord. It is only ruled by me by your offering it generously to me. And that's it. He has one more prayer, that's tomorrow evening, and off he goes, back to Brahmaloka. And the rest of the chapter is what happens after he goes back to Brahmaloka. Notice in all of this, Balaram isn't mentioned. And it's said in the beginning of chapter 12, which is when the cowherd boys set out to go taking care of the calves for that day, because 12 blends into 13, blends into 14. That particular morning, Balaram was requested by Rohini to do some rituals. Something, his birth star, there was some brahmanas that were ready to do some ritual, so it was just an excuse. But by Yogamaya potency, he wasn't there. And that was important, that he wasn't there, by design. He wasn't there. Because for the whole year, Krishna expanded himself as all of the cowherd boys except for Balaram. And the cowherd boys, and Balaram, by the arrangement of Yogamaya potency, didn't even recognize. Hey, wait a minute. That comes towards the end of the chapter. Slowly, Krishna started pulling the Yogamaya curtain back, and Balaram could see, wait a minute. Now they're just boys, they're just 5 years old, but he's still the omniscient Supreme Lord. But the Yogamaya has influenced even him by Krishna's arrangement, so that the boys could just be the boys. And they grew, or their bodies matured, as little boys' bodies will do for 1 year. And that's what's coming up at the balanced part of this chapter. What some of the exchanges, and then we'll hear more about that in the following chapter as well. So, yeah, chapter 13 is a whole detailed description of what happened between the cows and the calves, and the bulls and the calves, and the mothers and the boys and the fathers and the boys. It doesn't so much speak about the boys and the boys, because their loving attraction is to Krishna, but each one of the cowherd boys is Krishna. So what was that like for the cowherd boys? Must have been a pretty ecstatic year. There's a statement in the Vishnu Purana that gives a very, very simple definition of Devata, or Deva, or divine. Not specifically as rulers of the universe, but in the category of Deva as opposed to in the category of Asura. And the category of Deva, Vishnu Bhakta Tata Daiva. So all the residents of Vrindavan, or all devotees in anywhere, they're in this same category. And to the degree that there's Vishnu Bhakti, to that degree then good qualities manifest. Or conversely, to the degree that Vishnu Bhakti is missing, to that degree good qualities will not manifest, but the demoniac qualities will manifest. Just like, when you have a dimmer switch, when the light goes down, darkness pervades. When the light goes up, light pervades. And the qualities of light are the qualities of being in contact with the Supreme. It becomes natural. Daivi Sampat is the word of Bhagavad Gita. So Brahma had this slip. He challenged Krishna and offended Krishna. We've been discussing this a bit. When it comes to souls of that caliber, perfected beings, it's by the influence of Krishna's potency that they have a misstep. Like Maharaj Parikshit offending the sage, and Arjuna becoming bewildered. What is my duty, and things like that. So Brahma has undergone all of this in a similar way to Arjuna becoming bewildered. Now what Arjuna did and what Brahma did are very different. Arjuna just asked, what's my duty? But he dropped his bow. And Brahma challenged Krishna, my mystic power against your mystic power. That's a little more serious. Indra's was far more serious. He wanted to kill the Brijbasis and kill the cows. Whew. That was pretty bad. So Indra is not in the category of a perfected being, but Brahma is. He's one of the 12 Mahajans. He's the head of a sampradaya. He's the receiver of all the Vedas. He is the most capable person in the whole universe, and those capabilities have come from Krishna. So not only the universe was gifted to him, but the ability to build the universe was gifted to him by Krishna. It's his ability. So this lapse was to give him an opportunity to be humbled and to give teachings they're particularly valuable for those of us in the Brahma Sampradaya. And through him we're understanding the value of knowledge, but also the limitation of knowledge. The Veda, the Vedic literature, Veda means knowledge. Vid, it comes from the dhatu vit, which means to know, so the Vedas, it's knowledge, Vedas. And we revere the Vedas. They come directly from the personality of Godhead. But Vedic knowledge alone is insufficient, because Vedic knowledge teaches bhakti, and therefore the whole of Brahma's teachings here is bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. In different combinations of ways of expressing it. But certainly that's the message of the Bhagavatam, that it's the message of Brahma's teaching here, and crowned with humility. And so we return to our service. We have some nice realization. But there's also this, he's presented from the very beginning, the very first verse, and it's being repeated again. He really wants more than just knowledge and being in charge of the universe. He wants to be a resident of Vrindavan. To get that requires the mercy of the residents of Vrindavan, and that way getting Krishna's mercy. That's our Bhagavatam's message in a theme, and very nicely presented here. And just one more verse to go, and that closes the chapter continues, but his prayers conclude. So let's see if there's some discussion. Are you still taking painkillers?
Guru Maharaj, the departure of Brahma, I thought it was little sad, because when he has committed something and he is trying to check with Krishna, there is kind of no reciprocation. Krishna did not say anything. He is saying something, but Krishna didn't say anything. So, what he would have understood while going back, one is like he has committed something bad, so he has to correct that. That is okay, but ultimately, like, Krishna is not satisfied. But then, how could he correct that or get some reciprocation from Krishna? This makes sense.
There is, in one sense, it's as if there's no reciprocation, because Krishna didn't say anything. But Krishna did far more than say anything. Krishna's given him all this realization. Krishna showed him exactly what he was looking for. Krishna has given him the opportunity to way back before even the universe was built. We hear in Canto 2, Chapter 9, Brahma making this request of Krishna, please protect me from the false ego tendency to think of myself as the creator of the universe. It's because it's very easy for us to fall into that one. The doership, I'm getting stuff done mentality. Very easy to think like that, very easy. So he's asking for protection. Krishna gave his protection, is giving it again. And showing him what he wanted. He was curious. What's the extent of his mystic powers? And he saw it. Not just read it in a book somewhere, but or something, or had it illumined within his heart. He saw it before his eyes. So the reciprocation it certainly is there, and the edification, the learning, is certainly, because Brahma is very intelligent, as we've been discussing. He can understand, to get the mercy of Krishna, he needs the mercy of the residents of Vrindavan. and that way get his mercy. And he understands, so we discussed this several times. All of that is reciprocation. Krishna didn't need to say something. He could have said something. He didn't. He didn't need to say something for there to be reciprocation. If he wants to, we can say something. But we hear Krishna was anxious to get back with the cowherd boys and finish lunch. And do what they do together. That was his heart's attraction. Now, so there's reciprocation with everyone, even the non-devotees, what to speak of devotees like Brahma. But the reciprocation is according to their position, and it was done that way.
Connecting that with my spiritual life, Guru Maharaj. So, in whatever little services I do, I also make, mistakes, and even in chanting, performing arti everywhere. So we ask for forgiveness, and say that whatever I did little is to please you in our prayers. So how can I understand that Krishna accepted that and he is reciprocating?
Well, how do you know anything about transcendence? We know on the authority of Scripture. Yeah. And it starts with the authority of Scripture. And so on the authority of Scripture we can know. And confirmed by Sadhu and Guru. So we can know. As we, you and I, and each of us become lifted in our Krishna consciousness, we'll have direct experience of that. But that's just another part of Krishna's mercy, however he wants to do that. For now, it's Guru Sadhu Shastra. There's some contentment and some detachment from the temporary compared to before. And there's ups and downs, but in a continuum, more detachment from the temporary, more attachment to the eternal. That's reciprocation. That's evidence that Krishna is pleased.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My question is more related to, maybe we can say in a way it's splitting hairs. But I was just contemplating on the way Brahma sincerely expressed his apologies towards Krishna, and he says that I'm the most fallen. And I'm contemplating on that, and given that Brahma is such an elevated soul, and he would not use any exaggeration in his speech towards Krishna.
He doesn't say most fallen, he says most insignificant.
Oh, then
Go ahead.
Sorry, then I'm actually misunderstood, because I heard most fallen, so maybe that.
I could read it again.
So if it was,
we've covered this topic.
Yeah.
He's feeling the feelings of a humbled person. An elevated person feels very humble, however is expressed.
Yeah.
If your input is how can he feel most fallen when he's so elevated, because he's in knowledge of what his position is. It's humility. Just accept it at that. You may not know what real humility is,
yeah,
but Brahma does.
Yeah.
And he's expressing it.
Yeah.
Elevated souls feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. Guru Maharaj, I was more thinking about in what context is he saying that? I mean, there has to be some meaning to that, the words that he has used.
It's humility. Just keep it simple. Don't get over analytical. He's feeling humility. He's expressing humility.
Yeah.
Don't get over analytical. Should I say it again?
No, I got
He's
it.
feeling humility and he's expressing it.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anyone? Okay, online?
Question from Sri Radhika Mataji. The purport stated, Lord Brahma was somewhat out of place in the simple, blissful atmosphere of Vrindavana. Krishna consciousness is the natural condition of the jiva, yet, when trying to refine subtle character traits, conditioned nature seems to be so out of place in the simple, blissful realm of bhakti. No doubt change is possible, but conditioning makes the endeavor seem like swimming upstream in the midst of a tsunami. Can you please provide some words of wisdom regarding where to find shelter for this unsettling feeling of being out of place?
Well, if you didn't feel out of place, you're in Maya. Meaning, we are out of place. And if one feels quite comfortable in that which is foreign to us, that's a sign that you have a ways to go. So it's not that at all times one must feel uncomfortable, because the attention may go to the misfit of the circumstance, and the attention may go to the very special, unique mercy that Krishna is bestowing upon you, and you forget your circumstance. So it's not stagnant, it's dynamic. But there's solace in knowing, indeed, it's a foreign place. Now, in this circumstance, Brahma's in Vrindavan, experiencing that I'm a misfit. We're the other way around. We're the misfit in the material atmosphere, hoping for spiritual well-being. It's kind of the reverse dynamic, but still, this is not a fit place for us, and moving to help qualify ourselves to become a resident of the spiritual realm. That's Brahma's position. That can be our position too. And meanwhile, there's this, I'm not qualified yet. Let me become qualified. But it's not a doership, it's a mercy and effort situation. We've talked about that so much. Mercy is required, not just our effort is required.
This question is from Sanchari. When you were speaking on the demigods quarantining from Kali Yuga, I was wondering if that extended to their response or reciprocation with those who worship them.
Yes, if I've understood your question correctly, yes. That is to say, they would, in using Prabhupada's expression, in days of yore, or in previous yugas, they may come when there's a yajna and they receive the propitiations from the yajna, whether they do it remotely or come in person. But in Kali Yuga, it's reciprocal for the worshippers. They don't see the worshippers, the worshipful demigods.
Guru Maharaj, adding to Sri Radhika Mataji's question, the out of place, Lord Brahma felt out of place because of the mood, primarily?
Etc. I mean, specifically the commentary says, I've got a demigod body with 4 heads. I'm out of place here in Vrindavan. It's the mood as well as the feature, because the feature matches his service. Now, we find, for example, in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Gopakumar is being encouraged in Vaikuntha, and he's being encouraged in Dwaraka to give up his cowherd boy uniform, Vesha, his attire. But he likes, so he doesn't. Anyway, it's outward as well as inward mood for Brahma. It's dissonant.
Question from Amara Mataji. Could you kindly shed more light on why Lord Balram was not there and why was this important?
It's a pastime where Krishna's going to be doing some things that if Balaram was around when he's doing those things, then it wouldn't work. So he has to not be around. For Krishna, for all the cowherd boys to be kidnapped and Krishna's alone, that's not going to happen with Balaram. Is Brahma going to kidnap Balaram? So Balaram wasn't around. And then the cowherd boys all manifested, and Krishna manifested himself as all the cowherd boys. He's going to manifest a duplicate Balaram. It just didn't fit the pastime. So there was another arrangement. And a whole year passed, which also suited the arrangement. And then his forgetfulness also, his not being able to understand, was withdrawn. So then it's all Yogamaya for Krishna's pastime purposes.
I think it's a continuation from Sanchari. In thinking of these multitudes of Brahmas who came when called upon, placing their heads at the lotus feet of Krishna and hearing from you that not all Brahmas are devotees?
I didn't say that. Who said that?
I didn't hear that.
Okay. That's it? Okay. One more time in the room here. No? Yes? Okay. You're happy.
One last question.
Okay.
What is one primary lesson we can take from this whole pastime of Lord Brahma?
Well, there's many, but you would take a pick. The preeminence of bhakti is the most outstanding one in my mind. A major part of the pastime is for Brahma to display the insignificance of knowledge in comparison to bhakti. He's the most knowledgeable person in the universe, and his knowledge is far, far insufficient to attain what the very simple cowherd residents, the Brijbasi residents, had attained. The inferiority of Gyan and the superiority of bhakti. And then bhakti in different manifestations and features. So he's in his knowledge way, he is explaining some of those. You could take it one step further. We've mentioned this maybe 16 times, and that is Raganuga Bhakti is the means to achieve that which the Brijbasis have, which is Lord Chaitanya's teaching, or Rupa Goswami's teaching. spontaneous love does not come simply from regulative activities. And it was Paramatma's question the other evening. It's necessary, but then Bhagavatam is teaching us keep going, like Brahma. Bhakti is the topmost. It's not exclusive to this set of prayers. Queen Kunti's prayers is the same. Bhakti is superlative. And one of the verses, those may say they know all about Krishna, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't. And so the inferiority of Gyan and the superiority of Bhakti.
One more
Yeah.
from Amara Mataji again. You mentioned that Arjuna and Lord Brahma both were bewildered, but Arjuna asked Krishna, "What is my duty?" and Lord Brahma challenged Krishna. My understanding is asking Krishna what to do is not a sign of bewilderment. My understanding is asking Krishna what to do is not a sign of bewilderment. Can you kindly comment on this?
He was bewildered. He said, "I shall not fight." He dropped his bow. He was bewildered. Now, you can take a different position. Do I turn left or right? But I'm ready to go left or right. He was like, I'm out of here. Okay. Okay, we're done. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.